think we are ready to roll. Let's see. One other thing. All right. Here we go. Let's see. All right. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, let's have a little kirtan. Bhajan. All right. Here's the songbook. All right. Okay. Okay. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jagannath. Jagannath, Jai 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 Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Keta Sajashi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Paramse Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Umanamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lalasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Vishesha Shanyavadi Paschachate Shatari. So now we're going to continue with our study of the Jaiva Dharma. And we're reading about Pramana, Pramaya, Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayochana. Okay. So, Om Ganata Miranda Shagananjana. Shalakaya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigravenam Hop. Let me define the terms again. Well, actually, let me share the screen first. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, so kindly open my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So let us go to, here we go. that particular screen. And here we go. Let's set up. Okay, so I said today's topic, like yesterday's, is on pramana, pramaya, and sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. So let me define the terms so it doesn't get too confusing for everybody. So it's actually in the context of the Dashamula. Dashamula means the 10 basic principles, beginning with pramana. Pramana means what do you accept as evidence? Okay, that's what really be dealt with in this particular section here. Prameya is that which is to be known. Got it? Sambandha is knowledge of the different tattvas, the eternal truths. Abhideya is the practice of devotional service. And prayojana is the goal, which is called sajja. That's another term that's we need to understand the meaning of. So you got all these different terms. Pramana, prameya, sajja, sambandha, abhideya, prayojana. Somehow or other, it'd be good to learn these things. Sambandha again. Sambandha is the knowledge of the different tattvas and their relationship with each other. Tattva means the different eternal truths, like the soul, the type, what the soul is, what God is, what God's energies are, okay, and the relationships between them. And so that's sambandha. And then abhideya means the performance of devotional service, like chant your 16 rounds, follow 4 regular principles, and be a good boy and girl. And then prayojana is the goal, which is pure Krishna consciousness, and it's also the sajja. Sajja and prayojana basically be the same thing. That's the goal of Krishna consciousness. And then, then pramana means evidence. What type of evidence do we accept? And what type of evidence is questionable? And prameya means what you get to know through this evidence. Okay, got it. All right, and yes, you will all be tested on this. So, anyway, Brajanath, who is talking to the Babaji right now, gets some answers from the Babaji when he asks, is there any information about prameya, what is to be known, from the Shrutis, which are the Samaveda, Yajurveda, Tarva, and Rigveda, and also the Upanishads. And the Babaji gives him information from the Shrutis. Now, in addition, there's what we call the Smritis. Smriti basically means the Vedanta Sutra, the Puranas, and the Itihasas, and some of the Pancharatras. So is there proof of this in the Smriti? Babaji said, this is stated in the crest jewel of all scriptures. The Bhagavatam, Kalena Nashta Palayeva Niyam, Veda Sangat Gita Sangita, Mayadu Brahmane Parokta Dharma Yasham Madatmaka. Repeating a little bit of this we read yesterday. By the influence of time, the Vedic knowledge was lost in the time of annihilation. Therefore, when the subsequent creation took place, I spoke to Brahma the Vedic knowledge in which bhakti is the essence. Bhagavatam 11, Canto 14, Chapter, Text 3. Tena prokta saputraya manave purvajaya sa tato brigvadyo gnam sapta brahma maharshaya. Brahma spoke this Vedic knowledge to his eldest son, Manu, and the 7 great sages headed by Bhrigu then accepted the same knowledge from Manu. Bhagavatam 11, 14, 4. Of course, sometimes Narad Muni is described as the eldest son, but we actually read this yesterday, so we're going to go quickly until we get to the point where we left off. These sages passed the Vedic knowledge to their sons. Brajana said, why did it become a sampradaya? Babaji said, many people in the world are led astray by the faults of Mayavad. The devotees free from all those faults, if they do not form a group, find it hard to obtain devotee association. This is written in the Padma Purana. So Mayavad people misinterpret the Vedic literatures. And this is another verse we read yesterday. Sampradaya Vinay mantras. Te nishpala mataha. Shri Brahma Rudra Sanaka Vaishnava Kshiti Pa Nava. Pavana. The mantras give no result if devoid of a sampradaya. The sampradayas of Lakshmi, Brahma, Shiva, and the Kumaras purify the world. So you could chant any mantra you want, but you're not going to get the result unless you get it in disciplic succession. That's why if you pick some mantra out of the Vedas and you start chanting, will not be effective unless you're initiated in that mantra. Yep. Don't waste your time. Of all sampradayas, Brahma's is the oldest. From Brahma it has continued till now. There's no possibility of interpolation in any portion of the best scriptures such as the Vedas, Vedangas, Vedanta, if they come through a sampradaya from ancient times. Thus, there's no doubt about all the Vedic mantras which appear in the works accepted by the sampradaya. Sampradaya means disciplic succession. This disciplic succession of the sampradaya is very necessary. Thus, from the beginning, devotees have accepted sampradayas. And Brajanath asks the question, is the succession in the sampradaya maintained perfectly? And that's a very important question, because if you have a succession of gurus and disciples who later become the next gurus, and those disciples teach disciples who become the next gurus, you got it all the way down. If there's one break or one person who's really not able to transmit the knowledge properly, it is lost. As Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, that he taught the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan taught it in his disciplic succession, which is Manu and Ikshvaku. But eventually it was lost, so Krishna had to come down to speak the knowledge of the Gita again. So sometimes it's not maintained perfectly because the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. You know, one weak link and the whole thing falls apart. Babaji said, the names of the main acharyas are preserved in the succession of the Sampradaya. Prajna said, I desire to hear the succession in the Brahma Sampradaya. Succession means the guru, the next 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 guru, up to Srila Prabhupada and his followers. But of course, that's not going to be mentioned in this book, which is written in the 1900s. So, actually, in the 1800s it was written. Sorry, 1800s. Paravyameshvarasyashich Chiyo Brahma Jagatpati Tasya Shishyo Narado Bud Vyasas Tasyapa Shishyatam. The disciple of the Lord of the spiritual planets, Sri Narayan, as God, for those who don't know. So his disciple was Lord Brahma, the creator of the world. Brahma's disciple was Sri Narada, Narada Muni, and Sri Vyasadeva was his disciple. So this is the beginning of our disciplic succession, the Brahma disciplic succession. So in the beginning, there's Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma teaches it to Narada. Narada teaches it to Vyas. And then we'll get to do further acharyas here. Shuka Vyasasya Shishyatvam Prapto Jnana Varodanat Vyasalabho Krishna Diksho Madhvacharya Vaha Yasha. To arrest the propagation of jnana. To arrest the propagation of jnana. Anyway, I guess to stop propagation of improper jnana. Shukadeva Goswami became the disciple of Vyasadeva. The illustrious Madhvacharya later took initiation from Vyasadeva. So that's interesting because Madhvacharya appeared a long time. Madhvacharya is in the modern recorded history, whereas Vyasa, he was compiling the Vedic literatures. Oh, give or take a few hundred years, 5,000 years ago. So how did he do that? Well, Vyasa continues to live, and Madhvacharya, he climbed up to Badrikashram where Vyasa was and met with him and got spiritual instruction. Tashashisho naraharis tachisho madhavadvija akshobas tashashisho bhut tachisho jayatir takaha. She, Narahari, became a disciple of Madhvacharya. So this is the succession. Madhva was the disciple of Narahari. Akshopa then became the disciple of Madhva. The disciple of Akshobhya was Sri Jayatirtha. So here you go in the disciplic succession coming from Lord Brahma that was unbroken. Ashisho Shisho Gyanasindus Tasha Shisho Mahanidhi Vijanidis Tasha Shisho Rajendras Tasha Sevaka. The disciple of Jayatirtha was Jnana Sindhu. The disciple of Jnana Sindhu was Mahanidhi, and Vijanidhi was the disciple of Mahanidhi. Rajendra was the devoted disciple of Vijanidhi. So you don't have to remember all these names. Just so you know, it's an unbroken chain of disciplic succession, and we can trace out the members that are in that disciplic succession from time immemorial. Jaya Dharma Munistasya Shishyo Yad Gana Madhyata Srimad Vishnu Puri Yastu Bhakti Ratnavali Kriti. Jaya Dharma was the disciple of Rajendra. Among the many disciples and followers of Jaya Dharma Muni, Vishnu Puri wrote the famous book Bhakti Ratnavali. Verse Jaya Dharma Yashisho Bud Brahmanya Purushottama Vyasa Tirthas Tashatisho Yaschakre Vishnu Sanghitam. The disciple of Jaya Dharma was Brahmanya Purushottam, whose disciple was Vyasa Tirtha, who compiled the treatise Vishnu Sanghita. Srimad Lakshmi Patistasya Shisho Bhakti Rasashreyaha Tasya Shisho Madhavendro Yadharmo Yam Pravartata. Vyasa Tirtha's disciple was Lakshmi Pati, and Madhavendra Puri, the shelter of devotional ras, became his disciple. Pure devotional service was propagated by Madhavendra Puri. Rajana said, in this verse, it says that the Vedas are the only proof pramana, and that sense, perception, etc. aids the Vedas. In other words, perfect source of knowledge is the Vedas. Because, why? Because Vedas come from the perfect person who is omniscient. I cannot produce perfect knowledge because I am not omniscient. I can only see a few things in this room, but I'm not omniscient. But to speak of omnipotent, wow, I am not. But in Nyaya, Sankhya, and other darshans, there are other proofs. The followers of the Puranas mention 8 proofs. Pratyaksha, Anuman, Upamana, Shabda, Atiya, Anupalabdhi, Arthapati, and Sambhava. I'm going to read about those proofs in a second. Why is there a difference? If one does not accept Pratyaksha and Anuman as perfect proof, then how will knowledge spread? So, Pratyaksha is direct perception. It's definitely not a perfect proof. Anuman is the inductive process by which one arrives at a general conclusion by seeing a limited set of data. And that's also imperfect because you haven't seen all the different sets of data if you're a scientist. So you're projecting or jumping to conclusions, and your conclusion may be completely wrong. It's not a perfect proof. Neither is direct perception. So let's go down and hear about the different types of proofs. Okay. All right. Where is that? 18. Oh, they were given by Jaiva Dharma and Baladev Vijayabhushan in their commentaries in the Tattva Sandarbha. So we ask you to read the Tattva Sandarbha. So there's direct perception, induction, a hearing. Of course, we accept hearing, history, intuition. Anyway, we have to go to the Tattva Sandarbha to get all those. Babaji said, Pratyaksha and other pramanas depend on the senses. So all these different pramanas, except the Shabda pramana. Shabda means that we've heard from a higher, superior, perfect source. All these are fraught with mistakes. So Pratyaksha is direct perception, and other pramanas, other methods of knowing things depend on your senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, and other things. The senses of the bound jiva, that's us, are contaminated with four faults. Error, we make mistakes. We become inattentive, inattention. Cheat, and we're limited. Limited senses. How can one say that knowledge gained through the senses is true? One should, of course, seeing is not believing. You see a mirage in the desert. Or you may see, let's say, you may see that Krishna is there in Vrindavan dancing on the heads of the Kaliya serpent when in fact it's a fisherman, which is what happened when Lord Chaitanya was present in Vrindavan. His servant thought that Krishna was dancing on the heads of the Kaliya serpent, but it was actually a fisherman with his lantern. We see many things that are not there and don't see things that are there. One should without fear accept that the perfect knowledge, the Vedas, which the Lord is empowered with his independent Shakti, appearing in the heart of sages and devotees in perfect samadhi, has been given, or has given, perfect knowledge. But, here's a big but that knowledge in the Vedas is applicable according to time, place, and circumstance. So, there's perfect knowledge, but the knowledge has to be applied according to circumstances that one finds themselves in. Got it? So the knowledge is perfect, but the application has to be adjusted according to one's realization. And that takes a lot of intelligence to have good realization. Brajana said, please help me understand the words Brahma, Pramada, Vipralipsa, and Karanapatava. Okay, so it's described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur or whoever is writing the subheadings. The Brahma's Gyan Endriya. Brahma actually means illusion, but it's Gyan Endriya, the senses, knowledge from the senses. Pramada is intelligence. Of course, pramada means bewilderment, very bewildered. Vipralipsa is intelligence. Karana Patava is karmendriya, the active senses. Okay. Jnanendriya is the perceptive senses, and karmendriya is the active senses, like the arms. And that way there's no overlapping. All right, there we go. Okay. Babaji said, mistakes of the imperfect senses concerning knowledge of objects is called Brahma or error. A mistaken vision, one thinks a mirage is water. So that's an error, Brahma or, not Brahma, Rama. That means one makes an error. One sees water or sees a mirage and thinks it's water. Okay. The jiva's material intelligence is limited by nature. That means our material intelligence is limited by nature. In coming to conclusions about the unlimited objects, there are bound to be mistakes. That is called pramada. It's mistakes. How can the intelligence limited by time and space ask how the Lord creates? Because the Lord and His creation are beyond time and space, and our intelligence is only limited by time and space. Doubt is called vipralipsa. In connection with action, the action senses are unavoidably clumsy. Many times they make mistakes. This is called karanapatava. Okay, karanapatava means mistakes. We make mistakes. Oh, Rajana said, the pratyaksha and other proofs mentioned have no use at all then? In other words, he's asking, does sense perception, what we see, pratyaksha definitely means direct sight. That's what the word, direct definition of the word means. But it means perception. Let's take it as perception. Through any of the senses or combination of any of these senses. So Rajanath is asking, but there's no use to what we perceive? And Babaji said, what other methods of proof are there except pratyaksha, relationship to knowledge in this material world? You know, it's just like, are you in this room or are you not in this room? Or is the sun out? Is the sun not out? You know, that's the only recourse we have, isn't it? Is that, you know, what is this? It's a pen. So we need pratyaksha for things of this world. But, however, next sentence, these proofs, pratyaksha, cannot be used for spiritual matters. For spiritual matters, the Vedas are the only pramana. For material matters, you have other types of pramanas. If the knowledge gained by pratyaksha, etc., follows the Vedic pramana evidence, which are self-perfected, swata siddha. Swata siddha means by its nature, it's perfect. You understand? By its nature. It's perfect just by definition. You know, you don't have to prove the Vedic proofs or the Vedic statements. Then one must accept the actions of pratyaksha with respect. In other words, if your vision and what you perceive is consistent with the Vedic statements, then the vision or perception is accepted. And if it's inconsistent or conflicts, then you reject what you're seeing. That may lead you to a little bit of cognitive dissonance, but that's another issue. The self-perfected Vedas, assisted by pratyaksha, etc., is the only pramana. In other words, the Vedic pramana is there, the standard of evidence, and the other things assist that Vedic standard of evidence. In other words, we use logic, we use induction, we use deduction, we use inference, we use history, and all sorts of things like that to back up the direct experience, which is very important. Brajana said, are the Gita and Bhagavatam not pramana? You know, is the Bhagavatam incontrovertible evidence? Is the Gita incontrovertible evidence? It means not questionable evidence. Babaji said the Gita is called Gita Upanishad because it comes from the Lord's mouth. Thus it is Veda. The Dashamula taught by Gauranga coming from the Lord's mouth is also Veda. The Bhagavatam, a summary of the essence of the meaning of the Vedas, is the crest jewel of the pramanas or evidences. If the many smritis follow the Vedas, they are pramana. There are three types of tantra. Of course, the word tantra comes from the word tantra, which means to connect, which is basically prescriptions for people to follow who want different things. You know, for example, and I'll talk about tantra in a second. Yeah, let's just finish with this sentence. There are three types of tantra: sattvika, rajika, rajasika, and tamasika. Okay. So, let me explain what that means. So, sattvika means in goodness, rajasika means in passion, and tamasika means in ignorance. So, therefore, in tantric literatures, there's left-handed tantra and right-handed tantra. What do I mean by that? The left-handed tantra is what you normally think of when you hear the word tantra, so it's a tantric. Like someone who's doing left-handed tantra, they will be eating from skulls of human beings. Please pass my doll skull. So they follow different regulated principles. First of all, they drink liquor. That's one regulated principle. You must drink liquor. You must have illicit sex. You must eat fish. You eat fish. Disgusting. Anyone who's walked by a fish store will know how bad they smell. You must eat meat. You must show obscene mudras to people. I'm not going to show you an obscene mudra because we all know what that means. You know, they call it giving someone the finger or something like that. That's an obscene mudra. So these are the panchamakara, which means the five regulated principles of those who in left-handed tantra. Right-handed tantra is in the mode of goodness. And in those tantric things, you have things like vegetarianism, etc. Pancharatra is Sattvika Tantra, that means the mode of goodness, and spreads all the secret meanings of the Vedas. The word Tantra comes the word Tanu, to spread, and also to connect. Thus the Pancharatras are also counted as pramana. Pancharatras are pramana, as evidence. Yes, so that's evidence. So these are tantras in the mode of transcendental goodness. Rajana said, the Veda consists of many books, among them which should be accepted and which should not be accepted. Very good question. Babaji said, in the course of time, unspiritual persons have thrown many chapters and mantras into the Vedas. One should not accept all portions of the Vedic scriptures. With the acharyas of the authentic sampradayas that have accepted as Veda, what they have rejected as an interpolation, we should not accept. So you have in the Vedic, what is that word again? Anyway, the Vedic group of literatures, there's so much information, some of which, because it hasn't been passed down to cyclic succession, has been corrupted. Corrupted means there's been things added, things been taken out, and things changed within there. And sometimes people add or subtract or change to satisfy their own senses and justify their own way of life. Wow. I mean, just like in Christianity, for example, there's the bona fide teaching of Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, got it. And so later on, there were so many theologians and speculators who came up with different philosophies. Some of them were vegetarians, some of them were not vegetarians. At one point, there was some discussion as to Jesus' position. Is he God or is he not God? So, therefore, there were two bishops or priests, I think they were bishops or something, who had different opinions on that. One said Jesus is God, the other one said Jesus is not God. And they really took to various violent means to try to win people over. In fact, they were burning each other's churches down. There's an interesting book called When Jesus Became God. And so the one who was more powerful politically, militarily, and every other which way, which has nothing to do with religion, he won the fight. And therefore now the Christians believe Jesus is God. Nice way to settle a philosophical argument, isn't it? So even in the Vedic literatures, we only accept, or you or I should only accept, those literatures and parts of the literatures that have been passed down in the cyclic succession. For example, Sripad Madhvacharya says that the Mahabharata has been corrupted. And there's so many different versions of the Mahabharata. So we don't accept everything the Mahabharata says is absolute, because it hasn't been passed down in unbroken form in disciplic succession or through disciplic succession. Whereas Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they have. And also the works of the Acharyas have been passed down in disciplic succession. Okay. So you're going to find that some of the Upanishads we don't accept because they weren't passed down in disciplic succession. And we got things like even parts of the Manu Samhita, which nowadays devotees are throwing things at each other. Verses from the Manu Samhita, to many cases, to exploit each other, to carry out their own particular objectives. But Prabhupada has not given us the Manu Samhita. He commented, yes, the original version, wonderful, but what we have now has been changed, as well as many of the Puranas. So we have to be really careful. I mean, there's like if you look at the history of any religion, you'll see that after some time, what was originally taught becomes changed by the subsequent followers of that particular religion. So what that means the Acharyas, have rejected is interpolation. In other words, things added, things taken away, things changed, we should not accept as absolute. I mean, it may be interesting, but it's not absolute. So here's an interesting question. Brajanath says, which Vedic scriptures did the Acharyas of the authentic Sampradayas accept? So Babaji said, the Acharyas accept the 11 Upanishads on Tattva. Because Tattva again means like who Krishna is, who the living entity is, or the nature of the living entity, and everything about Krishna's energy is both material and spiritual. Those are the Tattvas, Tattvatrayi. So, anyway, okay. The Acharyas accept on Tattva the Ishopanishad, which is what Prabhupada translated, formerly known as the Ishopanishad, the Kena Upanishad, Kata Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Prashna means questions, Mundaka Upanishads, Mandukya Upanishad, Tatitriya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihad Aranyaka, means the great forest, and the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And they accept as well some Tapanis which assist worship, such as the Gopal Tapani and the Shringa Tapani, the instructions for worship. They accept the Brahmana sections, etc. And all the khandas included in the Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, which explain them. These are called the authorized pramanas, since they've been received through the acharyas. Yeah, authorized evidence. Brajanath said, what is the proof that logic cannot assess spiritual matters, since it is devoid of suitable power? So, oftentimes people think by logic I'm going to be able to understand God. What is the proof that you can't use logic to understand spiritual matters? Because it's beyond logic. Krishna's beyond logic. He's the cause of all causes. What does that mean? That's not even logical to say something's the cause of all causes. Krishna is completely illogical in one sense. Babaji said, so here's how Babaji answered that. Naishatarakaina matiru paneya. No, so apaneya. Do not destroy this concept by logic. Kathopanishad 129. Tarka pratishtanat. Logic is without a solid foundation. That's Vedanta Sutra 2.1.11. Reviewing such Vedic statements, one will obtain the proof. Is a very important statement. Achintya kalo ye baba natams tarkena yojayat prakriti vyaparam yascha tadachintyasya lakshanam. Inconceivable states are not subject to material logic. The nature of the inconceivable, it is that it's beyond material objects. That's from the Mahabharata. Because the nature of the inconceivable is it's not conceivable. Because that's circular reasoning. Or defining something. Anyway, defining something as what it is. So anyway, but it's logical. That is logical. Sorry. Even though we're talking about illogical, it's logical that something illogical is not understandable. Something that is not conceivable by material senses will not be able to be conceived. That's interesting. Something that is inconceivable is inconceivable. Something that is inconceivable cannot be conceived. Anyway, Krishna is unlimited, so let's just put it in different frame, using different terms. That which is unlimited cannot be conceived, because our power of conception is limited. Got it? Okay. That's Mahabharata. So let us stop here with a lot of philosophy today and stop sharing, and we can allow some of our honored guests here to ask some questions if I allow you to unmute yourselves. Okay. Everyone's allowed to unmute themselves or raise your hand or type in the chat window if you have a question or comment. So, who does? Going once. Otherwise, we end early. Okay. Oops, someone just did it for a second. All right, Gora Hari, you have a question.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and please accept my obeisances, Gurudev.
Yeah. So, what's up? Okay.
Yes, you were talking about the scriptures, and you said that some of them are accepted by the acharyas in the line of disciplic succession, and some of them are not, because you said that some of them are corrupted, right?
Yeah, they've been changed. Let's use the word change rather than. I mean, it's actually easier for us to digest by saying changed.
I see. I see. And is there any, um, I guess, ideas or teachings that are still there and that we can
Yeah.
read, or?
Yeah, there's some things that are bona fide, some things that are not bona fide. So how do you determine that without
Exactly.
without an acharya to tell you what's bona fide and what's not bona fide? I mean, for example, you read the Manu Samhita, you're going to hear so many things that will frighten you to death. So what things should we follow? What things should we not follow? Even if you accept everything there as bona fide, it may not be applicable at our particular time, place, and circumstance, or in our particular
Exactly.
time, place, and circumstance. So, we devotees have a habit of going to these other literatures that haven't been presented by our acharyas and quoting from them and coming up with like so many stories that God knows whether these stories are right and God knows whether they're wrong, and so many philosophical conclusions that God doesn't, God knows, of course, God knows, Krishna knows. So that's a problem. And that's the problem I was trying to address, that people will go to whatever literature that justifies their life or their concepts or their senses or whatever. And
Yeah.
so therefore we have to accept the truth from pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, and who presented certain literatures and who told us which literatures are bona fide or which literatures have not been corrupted, have not been changed. So if you start to read, for example, the Shiva Purana, or if you try to use or apply the Manu Samhita, you'll be misled unless you find a pure devotee has commented on it, has told you what or how to follow different injunctions. I mean, it's just wild how devotees can really just like utilize so many Vedic literatures that have been changed to justify their own beliefs and activities. It's wild. Sometimes I think ISKCON means to be in a three-ring circus. How people can justify any damn thing by their favorite quote. I mean, even quotes from Prabhupada's books, people take out of context. Out of context means out of what it's referring to at the particular time, place, and circumstance. And they take quotes out of Prabhupada's books and then they misunderstand how to apply them at a particular location or time, etc., or with particular people. Okay? Good question. So, who else has a question? This is your time. All you friendly devotees. Lord Brahma, you have a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, the 8 proofs or the 8 methods of proving something, pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, sabda.
Yeah.
Do we accept these or do we not accept these?
Well, we accept these, but not as incontrovertible. In other words, we accept them when they don't contradict the Vedic conclusion. And they can be accepted. So when they don't contradict what we call Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana means the evidence of sound coming from the Vedic literatures. When they contradict or they come up with some wild thing that really we don't know whether it's true, whether it's not true, we don't accept it as absolute. We see a lot of things that are illusory. So our senses are imperfect. We make mistakes. We cheat. Right? We're an illusion. So the 4 defects of the conditioned soul that indicate that whatever we come up with through our senses, through our understanding of history, through our direct perception, will naturally be questionable. It may be true, but it's going to be questionable. You can't accept it on the same basis you would accept the absolute authority of the Vedic literatures. All right?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Alrighty. So, time for one more question from everybody. One more question. Question. So, going once. Okay. Going twice. Going 3 times. And that's it. Well, I guess we'll end 3 minutes early. Thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami.